Hey everyone, it's Sleepy Reader, aka Damien, doing that comic book countdown again. These are the 14 comics I read that were new comics on February 17th, exactly a week ago. Although the comics arrived very late because of the big snowstorm. So I think I got them on Saturday. So I'm amazed that I read all 14. And actually, I guess there's a 15th one I didn't read. Barb Alien, did that come out also? I'm behind on that. And to be honest, despite reading 15 comics, or maybe partially because of that, but for other reasons also, I was just kind of in one of those moods where no comic book really satisfied me that much. At least no new comic book that came out this past week. So this will be a particularly fickle ranking of the comics. So just bear with me on that. After some struggle, I put at number 14 this new comic from Valiant called Savage. I'm not sure why I picked it up. I think I was just curious. I like the title, Savage. And the character seems to be, I don't know, like as if Turok, Dinosaur Hunter from the old Valiant comics, had come back to the present time and was now a social influencer celebrity. And of course, they don't own the rights to Turok over at Valiant, so maybe they just made up this character to sort of make up for that. But for me, whatever the coolness factor of having a American Indian in some time or place with dinosaurs is lost in this. There's none of that cool kind of factor here. I suppose for some people this would be very cool, but it just didn't click for me. There was nothing wrong about it, but I didn't care about this. His real name is Savage, and some dinosaurs show up in our world, so he gets a chance to do more savage killing of dinosaurs. And that seems to be his main personality trait. And though he's a social influencer with a management team and everything, he's too impetuous and too much of a troublemaker. So anyway, yeah, there was nothing wrong with it, but it just didn't work for me. Also not working much for me at number 13, but this one has broader reasons for not working, I guess. Is the second and last issue of Immortal Wonder Woman from DC's Future State event, which I guess I've been getting 8 monthly issues out of this series, out of this event. So 16 issues total with the issues I just picked up today, I guess, because this last week this current week is the last week of the event. But I still have no understanding of what the point of the event is. And frankly, at least in stories like the ones in here, because there's 2 stories in here. There's one about the immortal Wonder Woman, who's literally immortal and is at the kind of end of time in this comic, just floating around in space, where I think even the stars have been destroyed, although bits and pieces of, she happens to float past the Daily Planet sign floating in space. Anyway, so she's immortal. She's been around forever. She flashes back to the time when Superman and Darkseid finally died together, fighting into the sun. But what was the point of all of it? I don't know. I'm just unmoored in all of these stories. And then there was another story about Nubia, who is a Wonder Woman at some other time. And she has an encounter with Grail and Circe. Is it Circe? No, what's the name of the... Yeah, Circe. In which they try to torture her to get some information. And she prevails, apparently with the help of some maybe African goddesses, I'm thinking. One of them is called Nancy, as in Nancy, the spider god, which I think is usually portrayed as a male god, but maybe it could be either. But again, I couldn't make all the connections needed. And in these Wonder Woman stories, the art also, well, not the art so much as the coloring troubled me. It was interesting, but ultimately just head scratching that out in this void, she met the Spectre, who was hanging around just sitting in Brainiac's giant head. So there were intriguing bits and pieces, but I just couldn't make connections enough to care or know to feel like this story was about something in any larger context. And I wanted it to be about something, I guess. At number 12 was this Vault comic, which has kind of the cover of the week, I think, for me. Although it's hard to say exactly what's going on this cover. It was really appealing to me, and I liked the title, Hollow Heart, so I just grabbed it and picked it up. But it's very thin in terms of plot. The art kind of... It feels like an artist who's not quite up at the professional level. I mean, he's not untalented or anything, and he tells the story okay. But for me, the art style, I could have gotten over the art style if there was more going on in the story. We basically know this character named E.L. is in some kind of lab. He's appears to be some kind of artificial construct, but perhaps he's made up of body parts of a person who doesn't remember who he is. I'm guessing just because it looks like, obviously there's a skull floating in him and there's other bits and pieces. Let's see, where it looks like there's some kind of body parts inside of him. And there's some guard who is gay and may be helping him to escape, or may not be. There may be something else going on. But that's as far as we get. So the most detailed character thing we get is the guard picks up someone at a bar, and we get kind of a random sex scene. It doesn't seem connected to the story. And before they have sex, he says, "Your place, your rules, just nothing that hurts." And the guy answers, "That's a short effing list, but okay." So what's that supposed to tell me? I don't know. I just thought that was weird. Maybe the implication is most gay sex is S&M or just painful. I doth not knoweth. Okay, more of a traditional comic, Immortal Hulk Flatline. And that's where it gets confusing to me, because it felt like this was a Hulk story, not an Immortal Hulk story, in the sense of being connected to the whole current Immortal Hulk series. But that's a very well-selling series, so of course they've been constantly putting out some one-shot things with the words Immortal Hulk in it, done by other creators than Al Ewing. And this one is written, drawn, and colored by Declan Shalvey. For the most part, it's a perfectly fine traditional Hulk story, but they bring in a character who also got gamma radiation and is an old mentor of Bruce Banner's, even though I think she was just made up for this issue. And she has undefined, incredible powers. But what her powers are, we don't know. So it was it was a beautifully drawn, kind of a standard Hulk story, except with some fuzzy areas, and those fuzzy areas bothered me. And the whole idea is the Hulk going, or the Flatline is the title. The character ends up, the other character ends up in the hospital flatlining, but it's supposed to have some significance to Bruce Banner and the Hulk himself about the gamma radiation. I don't know. It doesn't fully make sense. And we do have this whole thing in the Immortal Hulk of these people who are gamma irradiated can be brought back to life over and over again. And it is mentioned that Bruce Banner dies constantly, but is brought back to life as the Hulk. But I don't know how that connects. Is the woman the old mentor going to come back to life? I don't think so. I don't know what the implication of the whole flatline thing was. And this was $1 extra for this comic. It was a $5 comic. So, yeah, it was an okay read. But in at number 10, I'm putting Penultiman, which is, as I've mentioned before when I've talked about it, this is Penultiman number 5. It's a Superman variant, and Penultiman is this neurotic guy who was rejected by the perfected humanity in the future and sent back to our time, where he could be a superhero because, although not perfect enough for the perfection of humanity, he's nearly perfect. He's the penultimate, so he's good enough to be a Superman-like superhero in the sort of current human time. It's a pretty fun idea, and there's lots of fun bits in it. And, a large part of it is the idea that the robot he's created, like Superman creates Superman robots back in the Silver Age. The robot he's created is better at being Superman or Penultiman than he is. But the way this was the final issue, and the way it was resolved was mildly amusing. And I think that's the problem with this whole comic. It's mildly clever, mildly amusing. I'm a fan of Superman variants, so it was okay. But I hope they don't bring back Penultiman unless they have a much better idea. In at number 9 is a comic this is the penultimate issue of Family Tree. It's a comic that I enjoyed immensely at first, and in kind of the second act, the last 3 or 4 issues, it's slowly faded for me in terms of my interest. We jumped ahead into the future. It still has this incredible art. I love the art by Phil Hester and the rest of the art team, the Eric Gaspar and Ryan Cody. But it is Jeff Lemire. It's the typical. It's not all Jeff Lemire stories do this, but I'd say some percentage of them do, where they start out great guns and then they kind of fizzle. So we're in the future, and most of humanity has been, in some sense, turned into trees. But the implications of all that aren't very well spun out. We just have our family who's surviving and a few surviving sort of government agents who are still trying to stop the trees. And it's just assumed those government agents are bad, and everybody turning into trees, except for a few of our heroes, is a good thing. I don't know. And it's okay to kill government agents. Of course, I suppose they're trying to kill the tree, the master tree, the main character's sister, Megan, I think, who was the first person to fully turn into a tree. And I guess they think if they destroy her, they can somehow reverse the course of this end of humanity turning into trees. So it's really hard at this point in the story anymore to put my sympathies anywhere. And also, Lemire too much skipped over what has happened to the world exactly. I want more concreteness, I guess, in that. I've become a baby about the whole thing of wanting the writers to really give me everything, not skip over what I personally feel are details they should have really told me about. Shazam, I strangely enjoyed this. I ranked it at number 8. This is the second of 2 Future State comics. Again, lacking a bit of the context. I don't know if it connects deeply to the death metal series that I haven't read yet, that Future State supposedly springs out of. Maybe that's my whole problem. Interestingly, the Spectre shows up in this one too. But it's a fun, wacky story, and if it's not explained somewhere else, I'm confused, because it definitely feels like this is a continuation from another story where this is like the middle 2 issues in maybe a 6-issue arc. So there was some setup that seems to have happened before the first issue that that Billy Batson and Shazam or Captain Marvel made a deal with some other entity who I don't know who he is, but he's this guy, and they're guarding the Rock of Eternity by having Billy chained to it, to some doorway, and it plays out very nicely. As you can see, it has pretty cool art. But then it's definitely not, like I said, it's like the middle of a story. It ends with just some revelation of someone coming through the doorway. So we're only part of the way through the story, but it's the end of this 2-issue series. I guess there's going to be another series called, it says, The Unkindness Returns in Future State Black Adam. I thought Future State is over this week. Did I miss a book called Future State Black Adam? Or is that coming later? And of course, when I was pre-ordering these things, I didn't know I would need Future State Black Adam to complete the story with Shazam. So I put it in at number 8. If it was more of a complete story, I might have made it higher. It kind of, to a degree, overcame the lack of context that I'm suffering with so much in all these Future State books. Like, they all seem to take place at different times. I don't know if any of them are related to each other in any real way. Oh, and here's a Marvel book in at number 7, MODOK number 3, MODOK Head Games. This cover's funny but a little gross. And I had just recently read MODOK Head Games 1 and 2, and it's written by Patton Oswalt, the comedian or actor/comedian, and another writer named Jordan Blum. And I decided to read these after being very impressed with Patton Oswalt's work on that one Black Hammer one-shot. And I thought issue 1 and 2 were very good, very funny, within the Marvel Universe kind of takes. I'm a fan of the character MODOK. He's one of my favorite villains. But I liked issue 3 a little less. That's why it's only at number 7. I mean, it's not bad. But a lot of the issue involves Gwenpool, and the level, the first 2 issues seem to balance the comedy with the being in the Marvel Universe and taking it seriously, and you introduce Gwenpool and everything is just wackadoo. Let's just have some laughs, which I guess is what the character Gwenpool is there for. But I didn't really want the story of MODOK to be taken over by that kind of postmodern, where the whole comics are just all a joke kind of feeling that she brings. So it was still fun to read, but it just wasn't quite going where I had hoped it would go from the previous 2 issues. In at number 6 is The Picture of Everything Else. This is a comic that I'm not as loving as much as a lot of other people that I follow on YouTube and elsewhere. It seems that people are really taken with this book, and it's good. I can't say anything's horrible about it, or, of course, I ranked it, a little above the middle mark in my books here. And I can't say why I am not as in love with it as I feel I should be. With the whole turn of the century art scene, our hero has now become an art critic. He gave up being an artist after seeing people being murdered gruesomely by another artist's magical paintings. And we have a couple of encounters with Pablo Picasso. I don't think the artist of the comic made much effort to make him look like Pablo Picasso. I did look up some old pictures of Pablo Picasso when he was young, because obviously in 1900 he would be quite young. So it's interesting. I think it remains a book that I can take it or leave it. I'll see what my mood is the next time. It's not on my pull list. The next time it comes out, I might grab it. I might not. It's certainly, it gets a lot of admiration for being a very different kind of comic. And, and even down to the artwork, which has that watercolor feel to it. It's, I don't know. I can't say why it doesn't, totally wow me. Should be like one of my number one comics or something like that, but it's not. Second Coming, Only Begotten Son, the second mini-series in this Second Coming series, was good. I ranked it at number 5. It, I think a real Jesus would have liked this issue perfectly well. Although, except for the talk of that God has deserted humanity and moved on to other things, but Jesus hasn't. But a lot of the comic is a spoof on a kind of Christian theme park that this real Jesus visits, and I thought that was well done. And then a scene where Jesus helps out a guy who's about to kill himself. And the two of them kind of walk off into the sunset at the end of the issue. I don't know if that character in the issue of suicide will come back up in the next issue. So not much with I forget what the name of the Superman like superhero in here. Not much with that hero in this issue. So it's a good comic. Sometimes it makes me feel a little weird, the fictionalized Jesus stuff and the commentary on religion, some of which I can get behind and some of which I can't. Here at number 4 is Ha Ha. I liked this. I liked the previous issue of Ha Ha. This is Ha Ha number 2. Each one has a different artist, as you probably heard from other people. This one had a pretty cool artist who I'd never heard of. So one of the nice things about this is it kind of, since Maxwell Prince has kind of a big audience now, at least of indie comics aficionados, he's probably using this to bring a lot of, artists into the spotlight briefly for an issue. I'd certainly like to see more of this artist. What's her name? Something Thorogood on other comics. I think Chris O'Halloran, the colorist, who's also the colorist on the book that Maxwell Prince is most famous for, the Ice Cream Man, is the same colorist. I gotta say, I'm enjoying Ha Ha. It still isn't up there with Ice Cream Man. Now, maybe because Ice Cream Man has been around for 22, 23 issues, it's really built up a whole aesthetic that I might not have felt in the first issue or two of Ice Cream Man. This is only going for 6 issues, so I'm not sure how long that will build up. Plus, it has the factor of changing artists every issue, which, like I said, is a good thing in terms of that spotlight, but maybe makes it harder for it to build up momentum. Or makes, Ice Cream Man, each story is separate, but there's still a sense of connection. I didn't sense, except for the very literal fact that someone wears clown makeup in this, I didn't sense much of a connection to the last issue. But anyway, it's a pretty intense, sad story of mental illness. It was well done. Here's my most problematic, there's no serious problems here, but I put American Ronin at number 3, but intellectually I knew that had I been in a different mood, I might have put American Ronin at number 1. This is the final issue. We are told at the end, conclusion of volume 1. So we will see these characters in this world again, which is great. I had gotten behind a little, so I read issue 4 and 5 together at the same time, and maybe given my my dark mood and wanting comics to lift me out of a dark mood, and this being so dark and reading 2 issues of it in the row, I felt it pull me down into its darkness a little much. So that's why I put it at number 3, perhaps, rather than number 1. The art seems to be even better, in terms of these crazy layouts and intensity. There's a few ads in there, but so it was very impressive, and it was a good end to an arc. I would say if I have anything negative to say, it's only that I wish by, well, it's only 5 issues, but I wish by 5 issues that I understood. I understand the general outline of this world in terms of evil corporations run things, and they use assassins, and they're totally amoral, and the assassins are sort of super assassin-y, evil type of people. But there could be a lot more fleshed out here. I think one of the things, this is Peter Milligan doing what AWA wants, and what it now seems like what AWA does is all of their comics are movie pitches. So it's a very strong pitch, but it's not necessarily filling out all the details. It's relying on certain cliches. But what it focuses on, it does extremely well. Just the ins and outs of the work of this. Well, he's not an assassin anymore. He's trying to get some kind of revenge against the corporation or corporations that he used to work with. We don't even know what his ultimate goal is. Is there something more than just revenge? I guess it's probably just revenge. But yeah, so it would be maybe in volume 2, all of that will be filled out. I will be kind of glad for a break from the dark intensity of this world, but I will probably be getting American Ronin Volume 2. It's kind of Peter Milligan showing he can do a more straight-ahead thriller, maybe more intensely than most people trying to do a thriller, far more intensely. Of course, huge props go to his art team, particularly ACO, and Dean White, the colorist. And there's an inker too. It's unusual these days to see a penciler, inker, and colorist. But yeah, David Lorenzo's the inker, so he shouldn't be shortchanged either. Be interesting to see if they explore more the sense of all these assassins are drug addicts or users of these very advanced drugs that do all kinds of things. Be interesting to see if they explore that more in future volumes. Okay, and in it, number 2 is a more kind of fun romp comic, Once and Future. I thought this was a very good issue, and it's hard to really say, but it seemed like the quality of the coloring that's always next level was even more next level, and the line art's very for what it's for what Dan Mora does. He keeps doing it very strongly. I think there was a time where I thought it was looking a little sketchier, but anyway, so the art and the color were just amazing here, and the story continues to be fun, and I continue to wish that Kieran Gillen would just give us a little more information about the mythological characters or about a few other connecting points. But that is being picky given all the riches and fun craziness we're given here. In at number 1, and how could I not make it number 1? Because it had the most surprising end of a story arc that I can ever remember reading. So I won't give that away. The twists and turns, every issue of this 5 issues had a huge twist, and now the whole arc has a huge twist, and the story will have to go off in a completely different direction for the next arc, which they say is coming. They thank the audience in the back for having followed them. But they planned all along, so it was kind of a risk, I think. If this wasn't successful, they might not have gotten past their first arc. But they planned all along for what went on in this first arc is just the prologue to whatever else they have planned. So my mind is blown. And I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say a whole lot more. But I'll just give you some peeks at the really great art. I wonder how this is going to read in trade, because this is one where there's so much of the plot advances forward in each issue. You really do need kind of a breather between issues, I think. So if you end up getting the trade, I would say try to read it one chapter at a time, then take a break before you go on to the next chapter. Crazy stuff. So, yeah, let's hope that we not only get more We Live, but a whole lot more comics from the Miranda brothers. Just a great thing. So I'm glad that for once I broke down and got an Aftershock comic in individual issues, because I still generally don't get Aftershock comics because they decide to put that price premium on all their first issues. So, but I will probably look more into some of their trades. So that's that.